Hey guys, Bipolar Barbie here. Now today we're going to be talking about my borderline experience in the past 12 months and the lessons that I have learned that have really helped me propel forward in my recovery and accept my situation and move forward and start this healing process. Now if you like this video, make sure you let me know, give me a thumbs up, that would be so appreciated. Write a comment below, I definitely will get back to you. And if you haven't subscribed and you like this video, hit that subscribe button because I'm uploading so many videos each day right now. And I wanted to share with you today actually something I've been thinking about a little bit lately, and this is my journey with borderline personality disorder over the past 12 months, which has been a particularly significant turning point in my borderline journey. These are some lessons that I really had to learn the hard way, and this is the way in which I learned them, and then I'll kind of tell you guys what impact that has had on my life, because it has been a really positive impact. Now obviously I had some abusive relationships with some narcissistic men, and that's kind of how I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. For me, it stems from this kind of daddy issues idea. And after I broke up with my last ex, so he dumped me via text message and then just there was no communication after that. It's pretty devastating, I think, for anyone in general without even like an explanation. So that happened, and then I was distraught. I was a mess. I just like fell down to the ground. I was just completely broken. I'd given away every single part of myself to everyone around me, and I had never gotten anything back in return. And I had basically been filling these holes in myself with snippets of other people and their lives. And I guess every single time they left, those parts were just ripped out of me. And they tore and took parts of me, like flesh straight from the bone, with them when they left. And I never took the time to build myself back up. And I think that's how I got to this really vulnerable, broken state where I was just completely shattered. I imagine myself as a skeleton. I did this drawing on it where I was literally, all of my bones were broken. Some of my insides were like hanging out because it was just, that's how I felt. That is really how I felt. So fragile. And anyway, I had this conversation sort of after that. Like I was hospitalized for a couple of months after that. When I left hospital, I was in a really shitty situation. I had no money. I'd been unemployed for so long. I couldn't really find a place to live. I was living in a caravan in the backyard of a really dodgy share house. It was not a good situation in a really dodgy part of town. The house was a mess. It had dead rats. The person that lived there was like a hoarder. It was just absolutely horrific. And I knew I had to get out. We had to leave the house anyway, and I'm looking for a place to live, and honestly, I just couldn't afford anywhere to live, not even like a crappy tiny room somewhere. And I had basically called my parents a couple of times, maybe like 5 times actually, and I had spoken to my mother and I had asked her sort of, you know what, I don't have anywhere to live. And at first I kind of just said that in a way that I was hoping that they would offer, that if I told them my story and my situation, they would care enough to be like, oh, you know, we've got plenty of bedrooms and guest areas at home, you know, why don't you come here and stay for a little while? Well, you know, that was never going to happen, and it didn't. So then I started to be quite direct. Hey, can I come and live with you guys? And the answer was no. No, you cannot. And that was really heartbreaking. That was really, really devastating. And I remember at the time I wrote a post about it. I wrote a post about the fact that I was stressed out of my mind, and it was really hard to come out of hospital and just, you know, have a level of recovery that I hadn't had in a while, but still be struggling. Like, you don't come out of hospital and go back to normal, you know what I mean? I mean, even if you're physically sick, that wouldn't happen. It still takes a lot of time to recover from such a bad episode. So anyway, I made this post. And then about a day later, I got this phone call from my father. And it starts off like this. How dare you? How dare you do this to me? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what have I done to you? And he's like, you made me look bad. You made me look bad in front of all my friends. My friends have been calling me saying, what the hell are you doing? your daughter's in trouble. She needs a place to live. Like, you've got so much space. Why aren't you helping her out? She's got no money. You know, she's going to be homeless. Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? And obviously what my parents are most afraid of is looking bad in society, looking bad in their friends and things like that. And that kind of pressure really got to my father. And he resented me for making him look bad. And I kind of said to him, you know what? If you don't like the way that you look, then maybe you should take a long, hard look at yourself. Because I speak the truth, and this is the honest situation. You aren't helping me out. And if you don't want to look bad in front of people for not helping me out, like, well, then maybe you should help me out. You know what I mean? It just was like a really strange concept. And the phone call just kind of got really worse from there because, you know, it was, how dare you do this? How dare you make me look bad in front of everyone? Now, you know, I have to give you a place to live because, you know, otherwise, like, my friends will think that I'm like lesser of a person. It's kind of like, well, maybe you are. You know what I mean? But anyway, so this conversation continues. And he starts going on about how much of a burden I am, how I don't deserve them. And I was kind of like, I know that you think I don't deserve it. And he's like, no, you don't know that you really don't deserve it. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I do, because you've been telling me that my whole life, so I really do know it. And he starts going on about how I think the sun shines out of my ass and, like, you know, I just blame everyone else and I don't blame myself. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? I blame myself. I really do honestly blame myself for this, and it tears me apart. It makes me feel so bad. I'm so disappointed in myself, angry at myself, frustrated. I really do blame myself. And that blame puts me in such a dark state of depression, such a low rock bottom. It is a terrible burden to live with. So then he starts saying, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's literally what happened. I'm not even over exaggerating that. Like, it was a 4-year-old child that I was speaking to. And he starts saying things like, I know what you think. I know what you feel. When I am trying to express what I think and feel, he is just completely denying it. He is invalidating it. And in that moment, I was like, wow, this is where the borderline has come from. This is a perfect example of parental invalidation. No one has the right to deny your feelings and your thoughts. I mean, you can theorize about how someone might think about a situation, how they might feel about a situation, but honestly, that is your subjective opinion. That is based on the way that you would feel if that happened to you. But guess what? Everyone feels differently. Just because something would make you feel sad doesn't mean that it would make someone else feel sad. And they're allowed that. They're allowed to feel differently. My human experience is very different to anyone else's. There is no one ultimate truth. You can have your truth. You can experience it in one way. That is your human experience and your entitlement. But you can't deny that I can have a different experience. You just can't. So when he's standing there saying, no, I know who you are. I know who you are. And I'm like, you know what? You don't know who I am. You've never known who I am. And this is like literally the issue that we have had my whole life. And when he starts saying, no, you're not. No, you're not. You know, I know what you think and I know what you feel. I had this moment of clarity where I went, I honestly don't know whether I'm speaking to my father or my ex-boyfriend right now. They sound exactly the same. Like literally word for word. It was like this weird deja vu. I'm going, I've been here before. This is the same situation, the same words, the same point of view, the same interaction. And I just went, whoa, I get it now. I really get it now. And then it sort of continued on where he was really hassling me. He was really abusing me. And I just completely broke down. Because what frustrates me the most is that I can't get through to them in this sense that they're telling me who I am. They're telling me what I think and feel. And I'm denying it because they're wrong. But they're not open to understanding my point of view. They really just don't want to hear it. They think I'm making excuses, but I'm not. I'm just trying to explain it. And I broke down to the point where I was like, you know what? I do blame myself. And I'm sorry for all of this. I really am sorry. I blame myself so much that I just want to give up. And I completely broke down. And he hung up. And I think in that moment, I guess I was about to call the helpline because I really needed help. It was the most, it was a very difficult night. And as I was about to call the helpline, my best friend just happened to call me. And, she said, I honestly don't understand why you still call them family, because you know that we're your family. Family is what you choose, and they have never been good enough to you. And in that conversation as well, one thing that I forgot is I asked, he said to me, you don't deserve anything from us. You don't deserve to be loved. How on earth could you expect us to love someone like you? And here I am going, why can't you? What is wrong? What is wrong with me that like my own parents can't love their daughter? That they don't think I deserve basic human decency and respect? And I'm really trying to get to the bottom of this because I've been trying to ask myself this question and figure it out my whole life. And basically the answer that I got was, you were different from the moment. Oh no, the first answer was, you were a difficult child. I said, what do you mean by I was a difficult child? And he says, because you're a but why child. But why, Dad? But why? And he said that I was defiant, I was stubborn, I was disobedient, and I was difficult from the moment that I was born. And I'm like, really? You've been punishing me my whole life because I was a difficult baby? Like, seriously? And I think they've always had this attitude, we put a roof over your head till you were 14 years old. We did this. We went above and beyond. You should be grateful for the things that we have done for you in your life. It's not that I'm not grateful, but sometimes I just feel like, did you even read the job description? Like, really? When you went to have a child, did you honestly go through that contract that you sort of signed to say that you would care for that child? What, you want me to be grateful for things that you provided for me that if you didn't provide, you'd go to jail with child neglect? Like, those are your basic responsibilities as parents. That's what's expected. And you should not make your child feel guilty for you providing those things. And I think in that moment, I just really realized that they were never going to be who I needed them to be. Whether or not it was because they didn't want to, or perhaps they just couldn't, I don't know. Really getting to the bottom of that why just didn't matter, because it didn't change the outcome. It didn't matter what should have been, could have been, would have been. All that mattered is what is. And I had to, I guess, accept that situation. I ended up moving home after this point because I really had no other options. So I was there, and it's been really tough, I guess, like ever since. But I kind of went, you know what? I can't change them. They are who they are. I'm just going to have to accept that. I'm going to have to accept them for their flaws and all. I'm never going to change them. They're never going to be who I wanted them to be, who I needed them to be, or who they should have been. But that's just the reality of my situation. And practicing radical acceptance of that was very freeing. I mean, it's still been a very triggering experience throughout this whole thing. But for me, that gave me a sense of peace. And again, like, no one can reject you if you never wanted to be accepted in the first place. So changing my attitude with that, being like, you know what, I don't need your approval. I know you're never going to give it to me, so what's the point of even seeking it? I'm literally just putting myself through hell, trying to prove to you guys that I am worthy of your love. And the fact that you can't love me, well, that's on you. There is nothing wrong with me. And that helped through therapy, where my doctors were saying, you know what? The reason you were a difficult child is because you were smart, you were a child adult, and apparently they see a lot of that when they study psychology. Children that are intelligent, children that are creative, children that might have some form of childhood mental illness kind of brewing under the surface. Parents don't know how to deal with them, so they will often reject them. Just the same way I think any wild animal would reject a defective, offspring. And I think that's just human nature, I guess, in some ways, to do that. So for about another 6 months, I really lived with that. That was sort of my conclusion. I realized on my birthday when they tried to kick me out of home. On my birthday. Like, seriously. And they were going there, and it was another conversation about, you know, you don't deserve to be a part of our lives. You don't deserve anything. Like, you know, just complete negative criticism, complete personal attacks on who I am as a person, telling me that I'd always been a burden on them, and they can't, you know, they just can't stand me anymore. They want me out of their life. They don't want to ever know me. They wish that I'd never been born. They wish that I would just give up so they wouldn't have to live with the fact that they had me for a daughter. It was horrific. And I think in that moment, I really realized that I had accepted them for who they were, but I almost kind of expected and naively believed that they would return the favor. And I think in that moment, it was clear that that was never going to happen, that they were incapable of accepting me truly for who I was. Whether or not they wanted to or they just couldn't, it didn't matter. That was really a heartbreaking truth, but it was a very valuable realization to come to. To know sort of definitively that there was no hope there. That they really were never going to accept me for who I was. And I honestly just had to live with that. And there was another experience after that. Like I always said, even when I was a child, to my friends, I feel like I'm being punished for a crime that I never committed. And people have said that to me as well. My doctors have said that to me. And I was thinking about it. I always had this theory that it was my dad's sister. She was like the poster child for bipolar. There's a lot of bad history there. I think he's traumatized and hurt from her. And his parents died when he was quite young. And I overheard him saying not that long ago that basically he blamed his sister for his parents' early death from the stress that she caused. He blames her for basically everything bad that's ever happened to his life, every bit of pain he's ever felt. And he honestly believes that his sister had killed his father in that way. And he said to the person I overheard him having this conversation with, I've tried my whole life to prevent the same thing from killing me, but I failed. 1, you're not dead. 2, if you're really comparing me to that person, you should be thankful for how I turned out. You really should be. So now I know that there was nothing actually wrong with me. I wasn't defective. That wasn't the reason that my parents couldn't love me. It was because they had their own issues. They really did. So I hope you got something out of my realizations with borderline in the past 12 months. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What realizations have you had to come with that have helped you get over parts of your borderline personality disorder? Things that have helped. Please give this video a thumbs up. That would mean so much to me. And make sure that you really do hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys.